Hi there, welcome to another edition of Resolex Radar Talk. Today we have David Hawkins, who is the Operations Director of the Institute of Collaborative Working. He's the driving force behind the BS 11000 British Standard and the new ISO 44001. David, welcome.
Thank you.
So perhaps to start off, you could explain why a standard is so important.
I guess over the last 2 decades, the creation of major projects, particularly infrastructure projects with long-term durations, are no longer a facility for one organisation to take on. So what we've seen is a growth in consortiums, alliances. These challenge traditional management structures. In that you're bringing together groups of disparate organisations over long periods of time. I guess historically we've always had a problem with the fact that collaboration, partnering, whatever terminology you chose to use, was largely dependent on the charisma and enthusiasm of individuals.
Yeah.
What we felt was that given the growth in these consortiums, there needed to be a faster route to engagement and something which turned collaboration into a more systemic approach, which then became organisationally embedded rather than within individuals.
Okay, it's really interesting. So what would you say were the benefits that accrue to those organisations that have actually made this investment in achieving the standard?
I guess it's always the interesting challenge is, if we invest effort in building relationships, do we get payback? I think what we've seen since the publication of the original British standard back in 2010 is a whole variety of opportunities and benefits that organisations have found. These have ranged from construction projects finishing 4 months early, which is almost unknown. In some cases, we've seen significant savings through aggregated activities. We've identified in a number of cases where closer collaboration between client and contractor has significantly improved or adjusted, shall we say, cost avoidance. I think it's easy to say we met the target, but could we have done much better? We've seen other areas where, for example, the collaboration has been focused on safety standards, on performance. So that there's almost no situation where there isn't an opportunity to consider how we could do things better. I think the challenge that organisations are now facing is that traditionally they've been very insular about the way they've looked at the world. There is now greater recognition that it's working smarter and working together can deliver financial benefits, performance benefits, much better risk management. It has a whole spectrum of potential areas where closer integration delivers better results.
So how do you see the future then of collaborative working, particularly around the use of the standards, the international standard?
I think it's becoming an imperative. As far as collaboration is concerned, the risks that organisations face, whether those are customers, investors, developers, relies upon organisations working more effectively. So unlike perhaps other initiatives in the past that have become fads, I think the establishment of a collaboration standard puts a baseline in place for organisations to develop. It is not a set of rules. It was specifically designed as a framework. So organisations develop their own solutions rather than adapting others that they've seen before. And it speeds the process. It takes collaboration back to base thinking. And I think if you go back to the early 90s when we had fads around partnering, the challenge was, or the assessment was, probably 80% of those partnerships failed or were deemed to be failures, largely because an awful lot of them never should have been partnerships.
Right, okay.
In the first place, there was no business case for it. Others that perhaps could benefit from the potential, they didn't manage them effectively to deliver the results. So I think the idea of producing a standard has twofolds. Part of the baseline process is actually to get organisations to challenge whether collaboration is even the right answer. For us and for the group that's developed the new international standard, it's very encouraging. There are now, as chairman of the ISO committee, we have over 25 countries who are exposed to what the standard is doing and interested in its further development. So it's not just a UK phenomena, this is becoming global, as are most of the big organisations involved in infrastructure projects. Where do we go next? Well, we were fortunate earlier this year with the support of BSI to issue a revision to BS 11,000 as a guidance document aligned to the new standard. The International Committee is now working on a ISO version of that. We are also looking at a number of support programs or projects looking at how does collaboration fit with new thinking around relational contracting. How do we encourage and support smaller organisations to engage in collaborative business models? And there's even discussions around how do we get social enterprises engaged in a more systemic approach to their collaboration. So it's a very broad-ranging series of applications, which for me is quite encouraging. I think we have at last got collaboration onto a platform where it can be developed in an orchestrated and managed way.